Hey everybody on YouTube, this is Kyle Snyder once again, aka Klepton, with another NFL Top 10 list. This time I'm going to be doing the top 10 biggest mistakes in NFL history. Now, to clarify what this list is about, I'm not talking about mistakes that were made during games. Like, this list of biggest mistakes has to do with, like, drafting certain people, trading certain people, signing certain people, personnel-wise, starting certain people in games, that type of thing. So it has nothing to do with blunders during plays. It has to do with mistakes in personnel and management, that type of stuff. Anyways, let's get to the list. Number 10. Brett Favre comes back for the 2010 season. The 2009 season that Brett Favre had with the Minnesota Vikings was one of his best seasons in his entire career. And a lot of fans were like, well, Brett Favre should come back for just one more season. I'm sure he can have the same success as he did the previous season. It wasn't so much. It was a pretty bad season for the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, with the 6-10 record, with Brett Favre's streak of starts coming to an end due to injury, with the Metrodome collapsing, Brett Favre probably wished he didn't come back for the 2010 season. It was a pretty bad season for the Minnesota Vikings. If you've seen last season, you'd know what I'm talking about. Number 9. The Bills start Rob Johnson over Doug Flutie in the Music City Miracle game. Now, the Music City Miracle game, it was the Buffalo Bills versus the Tennessee Titans in the 1999 Wild Card round. And a lot of fans were questioning why on earth Wade Phillips would start Rob Johnson over Doug Flutie. And near the end of the game, it looked like, wow, maybe he did make the correct decision. Because with the Bills being up by 1 point until the Music City Miracle play happened in which the Bills lost. It's like, who knows what would have happened if Doug Flutie started that game, if he played that game. Things might have been a lot different for the Buffalo Bills. See, number 8. The Jets take Kyle Brady over Warren Sapp. 1995 NFL Draft. The fans wanted the New York Jets to take Warren Sapp. Instead, the Jets took Kyle Brady, who was not that good of a tight end. Sure, Kyle Brady played for like 12 or 13 seasons, but he never really produced too much. It's like, if they took Warren Sapp, they would have been getting a multi-Pro Bowler defensive tackle and maybe a Hall of Fame defensive tackle. But it was a big blunder for the New York Jets to get Kyle Brady over Warren Sapp. Let's see. Number 7. The Colts draft John Elway, then trade him away. Basically, during the 80s, the Colts were not that terrific of a team. They were trying to get a good quarterback. They thought they could get John Elway, but John Elway, when he was drafted to the Colts, demanded a trade to another team. Otherwise, he'd be playing in Major League Baseball instead. And so, basically, the Colts traded away John Elway to the Broncos, and we all know the rest of the story. John Elway became the best quarterback in Broncos history. He's a Hall of Famer and obviously one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history. Let's see. Number 6. The Falcons trade Brett Favre. Yes, for those of you who have been living in a cave or those unfamiliar with NFL history, Brett Favre started out with the Atlanta Falcons, although he didn't get a lot of playing time in it. And I think he only played 4 plays for the Atlanta Falcons, and that was it. And the Falcons, the next season, traded him away to the Green Bay Packers, and oh boy, what a blunder that was. I mean, Brett Favre produced so much for the Green Bay Packers, winning a Super Bowl there. The Atlanta Falcons, it took them a very long time for them to finally find their quarterback. It it went downhill for the Falcons after they traded Brett Favre. I bet they were wishing they kept Brett Favre so that they could win a Super Bowl. They still haven't won a Super Bowl. Hopefully they will with Matt Ryan as quarterback and with Mike Smith as the head coach and with all the weapons they've been getting the past few seasons, but who can say? Anyways, number 5, the Rams draft Lawrence Phillips. It's like there should have been warning signs that Lawrence Phillips should not have been drafted because of so many off-the-field issues. I mean, yeah, he had success during his college years, but during those college years, he was arrested for assaulting his ex-girlfriend, dragging her down a flight of stairs and all that. There was at one point in time in which the coach dismissed Lawrence Phillips from the team. Yeah, the coach of Nebraska University. It's like, but decided to bring him back. The assistant coaches tried to plead him, make his dismissal permanent, but the head coach said, if I do that, if I make the dismissal permanent, it's going to do more harm than good for Lawrence Phillips. The opposite ended up happening. When Lawrence Phillips was drafted into the NFL, he got arrested multiple times. He never learned his lesson. And because of all those arrests, it ended up diminishing his performance on the field. And now Lawrence Phillips is serving 25 years in prison. It's just ridiculous. So if you're going to draft him, so basically if you know a player who has off-the-field issues that could be a burden to the team, buyer beware. Make sure you do your research thoroughly on the character before you draft anyone, because you never know what's going to happen to the player. Number 4, the Raiders draft Jamarcus Russell. Those who are familiar with recent seasons know how bad Jamarcus Russell was of a quarterback. It's like, was he the worst quarterback? No, he wasn't, but he was still a pretty bad one. His work ethics were not that good. I mean, he was constantly out of shape during the season, during the off season. He didn't always give a 100% effort. It's basically he was in it for the money. It's like his rookie season when he was holding out on his contract, holding out on practices, preseason, and all that, or off season. That should have been a sign that this is a quarterback you gotta beware of. That you gotta make sure you want him on your team. So basically, if you have a high draft pick and he's turning out to be a holdout, that should be a red flag. Maybe this isn't the person you want on your team. Let's see, number 3, the Chargers draft Ryan Leaf. Ryan Leaf is, without a doubt, the all-time worst starting quarterback in the history of the National Football League, with a career quarterback rating of 50. It's like way more interceptions than touchdowns. It's like it wasn't good. Yeah, it was not a good thing for the San Diego Chargers. It was the worst decision the Chargers had ever made in the draft. I mean, yeah, I could understand why they drafted Ryan Leaf, because they thought they were getting a great quarterback. I mean, and during the 1998 draft, there really were no other quarterbacks to consider. Or it was either Peyton Manning or Ryan Leaf. They tried to trade up to the number 1 spot so they could get Peyton Manning, but the Colts did not want to give it up. It's like, so the Chargers had no choice. They had to get Ryan Leaf, and he turned out to be a very big blunder to them. And yeah, so basically that was basically the start of buyer beware for draft scouts to do their research on character issues before making a final decision on who they should draft. See, number 2, the Raiders trade John Gruden to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is a humongous blunder for any team to do, trading away your head coach to another team. I mean, yeah, they got draft picks and a lot of money for it, but in the end, it turned out to be the biggest mistake in Raiders history. Because even though the Raiders ended up making it to the Super Bowl, well, guess who they had to face? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And guess who head coached them? Jon Gruden. Jon Gruden knew all the plays of the Oakland Raiders. He was able to share that information with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just destroyed the Oakland Raiders. The Oakland Raiders had absolutely no chance of winning that Super Bowl. It was the biggest mistake for the Oakland Raiders. And finally, the number one biggest mistake in National Football League history: Roger Goodell being selected as NFL commissioner. And we all know how bad of a commissioner Roger Goodell is with this lockout, with him supporting the owners rather than the players and the fans. I mean, a lot of things he's been doing just have not been making a lot of sense. I mean, with this lockout, he really should have done everything to prevent this lockout from happening in the first place. I mean, yeah, now they say that they're close to getting a new CBA, but I'm not holding my breath. I'm not going to believe it until I actually see it happening. I still believe the only way for the 2011 season to happen is for the appellate courts to order this lockout to be lifted. I mean, if Pete Rozelle were still alive and he spoke face-to-face with Roger Goodell, Pete Rozelle would tell Goodell, "You have disgraced the NFL and everything that it ever stood for." Roger Goodell is the absolute worst commissioner the NFL has ever had. Even Paul Tagliabue was a better commissioner than Roger Goodell. Roger Goodell, you should be ashamed of yourself for allowing this lockout to happen. It's the longest lockout in the history of the NFL. So that's my top 10 list on the top 10 biggest mistakes in NFL history. Hopefully I'll have another top 10 list up pretty soon, but there you go. Enjoy your day. Thank you for watching. And as always, if you have any suggestions as to what my next video should be, please let me know in the comments section below. Thank you for watching.